Welcome to Wandering and Pondering.
The podcast of two overly opinionated teenage girls who wander through life, pondering the world around them.
My name's Ava.
And I'm Lola.
And today's episode is called Lipstick, Liposuction, and Liberation,
where we talk about choice feminism and the lack of individuality given to women through the media.
Anyway, so do you want to start us off today?
Well, I thought of this topic because I actually saw a reel about this Mormon woman that you also saw,
yes.
right?
I saw it on TikTok.
And she was talking about choice feminism and how it's basically not feminism at all. And Ava and I talk about the way that women use makeup, the role of plastic surgery in the feminist movement, so we figured we'd have an episode about it. So we started this off by watching a video essay where they brought up how modern feminism, i.e. choice feminism, is a product of neoliberalism. So essentially that's the ideology that all modern democracies use, and how this ideology puts the blame of the systematic oppression of women onto the individual. And that's where choice feminism kind of arises, because choice feminism, a quick definition, is just saying that essentially if a woman makes a choice, it is feminist. If a woman makes a choice, it can't be oppressive because she's making that choice for herself. And that's where we get the rise in trad wives that we've seen online, or women putting themselves in quote unquote oppressive situations, but it's okay because it's them making that choice instead of a system forcing them into it like it used to be.
Yeah. And today we're going to try to be as unchronically online as possible, considering we are in the purest form of nature. We are camping.
We're actually wandering. Well,
we wandered through the forest.
We did.
And reached our destination, and on the way that's what triggered Lola's train of thought.
The reason we dislike choice feminism is because it's a way that the system, the patriarchy, turns the feminist movement on women and makes it so that they're essentially unable to critique the system itself, because women have achieved their liberation. Women have equal rights legally in the places we live, Western democracies. And so
not even anymore.
Well, yeah, but it happened with the second wave feminism. Women achieved legal equality, and so there stopped being a need to really push the system itself. But really, the patriarchy and the system and modern day capitalism is still the reasons for this oppression. It also creates an idea of the girl's girl, which none of us are against, obviously. I think the idea of girls supporting girls is very important to feminism. But the concept of girls has made it impossible to critique women's choices without critiquing them and sounding anti-feminist, which is why this is kind of controversial. And I think it's why the modern day really likes choice feminism.
Yeah, but it's not. It also almost tricks women into keeping the misogyny and the patriarchy alive. Because they're saying that, I'm doing this because I'm liberated and because I feel like I want to do it, but they end up just keeping these misogynistic standards up themselves and through their own communities. So it's almost like the patriarchy and misogyny has infiltrated the women's communities.
It's exactly that. The patriarchy has fed women more misogynistic content through the guise of modern feminism and choice feminism.
And so our first topic today will be about plastic surgery and this sort of body modification for beauty industry. Not as in cool piercings and tattoos. We love those around these parts.
And I guess our first statement would just be that these procedures that you're being convinced to have done is just capitalism preying on insecurities. They make certain features unattractive, often ethnic features, by the way. They pick and choose which features they find attractive, and they make you feel so invalidated with yourself if you don't have these features that you go out and you pay to make yourself look quote-unquote prettier, instead of learning to love yourself and all that stuff. You end up feeding the economy of plastic surgery and under the guise of, I'm making a choice to make myself feel better about myself, and that's feminism. But really, it's not at all.
Yeah, the biggest, a really, really, really good example of it is the rise in nose jobs. Nose jobs back in the day, they were a little harder because nose jobs didn't look very great. They looked like plastic surgery nose jobs. But the rise of nose jobs, or rhinoplasty, was to get rid of quote unquote ethnic noses. And a lot of the time people will say, oh yeah, well, I was just unhappy with my nose. I didn't like the way it looked. And then they switch it to the Eurocentric idealized button nose or slope nose. And a couple pop culture references to as examples are, for example, Sophia and Lara from Cat's Eye. They both got nose jobs once they got into their K-pop group, and they both had quote unquote ethnic noses, and they got their Korean button noses. Or you see a lot of Arab and Greek people also getting nose jobs because they have larger noses. And when you ask them, they say, "Oh, it's because I was unhappy with my nose," or even a lot of them will say, "Because I was made fun of because of my nose." And yes, it was their choice, and it made them happier to get that nose job. But the question is, why did it make them happier? It was because they were conforming to the standard that everybody had put on them.
And it's important to differentiate that we're not blaming the women or people. All sorts of people get plastic surgery, but in this case, we're not blaming the women who conform to the capitalist ideas and these Eurocentric beauty standards put upon them. It's not their fault. That's the whole point, right? But we think that conforming to this just pushes it. You can't stop something from happening if you just continue to participate in its cycle. I guess that's why we're having this discussion here.
And also, we are very, very aware that it's not just as easy as saying, oh, love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Be happy with the way you look. We know that sometimes, especially in our modern day, just choosing to be happy with yourself just isn't always a choice. Sometimes you'll be in a space where you'll be continuously mocked forever. That's what a lot of people go through, especially when they get rhinoplasties later in life, just because all throughout their life they were like vigorously mocked, and now they finally had the means to do it. And in those situations, like not even those situations, in any situation, we're okay with those women getting plastic surgery. We're just more aiming towards a goal of making people reevaluate why they want plastic surgery. And that yes, it'll make you happy, but for what reason?
And also to, I guess, go against the advertisement of this plastic surgery. You know, if you say your whole life, oh, I really need a new nose, I really need a new nose to like feel good about myself at all, and you get that, that's okay. But there's been a rise of this because people talk about their plastic surgeries on social media, and they talk about these things as if it's normal to just completely change the way that your face and body look because it doesn't conform to a standard. And I also think that shows class. There's classism through beauty now, which there always has been, I guess, but conforming has always been expensive, and now even more so. We're going to get to a point where if you don't fit one specific perfect ideal, you're going to be seen as like just lesser than. It's going to favorize discrimination, and you can't reach that ideal if you can't afford it. So it's going to be further like spreading the rich people can have this privilege of being appreciated by the average person
and the
populace being better regarded because they're more beautiful.
And a little food for thought. If anybody knows the very once popular TV show Botched, both of the plastic surgeon on those shows are men. And my food for thought made me wonder or something, so we made a quick Google search. And according to Connect American Society of Plastic Surgeries, it says that, open quotes, women comprise only 19% of membership in the United States from the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, ASPS, end quote. And so basically all it says is that the large percentage of these plastic surgeons are men. The beauty standards are of course also spread by women, and some were also created by women, but they were created by women and spread by women for men.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that so much, almost 80% of the plastic surgery industry are men is, that's kind of a crazy thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because imagine going to the plastic surgeon for being made fun of for boob size, butt size, waist, tummy, anything that is more unique to women's insecurities than men, and going into your plastic surgeon office and maybe being a little doubtful, and a man saying, yeah, you would look great with this surgery. Plastic surgeons, if the procedure is unideal for your body or unsafe, they all will unrecommend it. But imagine going and these men are the targets of your attraction, and they're saying, oh yeah, you would look great in it. Of course you don't have to, but you would look great in that. That motivates you so much more than if a woman were to say it, because the object of your eye is literally saying you'd look so much better with it.
Exactly. And I think this goes for more than just something as extreme as plastic surgery. We can also talk about makeup, about fashion, about shaving. These are all things that we all engage in, really. Ava and I are almost hypocritical talking about this. But that just goes to say that none of us are not victims of this system. None of us are even able to completely disregard the training that the patriarchy has brought us through to make us feel like we need to conform to these things. I wear some makeup sometimes. I wear clothing that's typically feminine. What was the other thing?
Oh, and it's shaving.
Oh, I shave.
I also shave, but I shave 3 major parts of me, as in my. I shave my legs sometimes in the summer, but I shave regularly my mustache and my armpits, and occasionally I do it less now, except if I want to do henna that goes on my arm, then I'll shave my arms. But I used to shave my arms pretty regularly, and I shave my armpits. I mean, I started shaving my armpits just because everybody thought that armpit hair was gross. That's like the biggest thing.
That's like, I shave my armpits. I rarely shave my legs. I never shave my arms, but I still shave my armpits because it's just viewed as gross, and I just can't.
I do it partially for preference too. It itches the underneath of my arms, and I have eczema, so sometimes it triggers my eczema. I also don't like deodorant clots. That's one thing I don't love either. But of course, like I didn't know I had all these problems when I first started growing arm hair. Just when I stopped growing armpit hair, I realized I didn't like these things, so I kept shaving them. But I started shaving my arms and my mustache because one day I was skiing with 2 very good friends of mine who were both males, and this was quite a while ago. Like, they hadn't hit puberty yet, and one of them was even younger than I am. And we were going up the chairlift, and they said, oh my god, well, one of them said, she said, oh my god, Ava, you have more mustache than me and him combined. And in that moment, I almost started crying, and I got so pissed off, I didn't talk to them for 2 weeks. And ever since then, I tweeze it now because it gives me pimples to shave it, but I make sure I don't have a mustache very regularly. And for a while, I started shaving my arms because a guy in our school, we were doing a science experiment, and I'd rolled up my sleeves, and I was mid-experiment. We were not talking. There was no subject of body hair, arm hair, or even aesthetics. And he looks at me and he says, Ava, why are your arms so hairy? And I was like, thanks, Jit. Thanks a lot. And so next time I shaved, I shaved my arms as well.
And that doesn't mean that Ava making that choice is wrong or that she should have to stop at all, right? It's just that choice isn't necessarily feminist. In fact, it's the opposite. She got, when women are told...
shamed.
Yeah, shamed. When women are told they need to do things, they're often products of the patriarchy or capitalism, which go hand in hand. Because lots of women... I've seen the argument online. We're trying to be not chronically online, but I have seen it a lot where women talk about the fact that they shave for themselves because they like how it feels. They're like, oh, my legs are so smooth. And that doesn't mean that this argument doesn't exist at all. You can think that you can really like having smooth legs, but you have to evaluate, why do you like smooth legs? Is it because the advertisements that you were showed, oh, smooth legs on bed sheets, that feels really nice?
It does.
You know? I
roll around those dogs are fluffing around in sheets.
I just get too cold.
No, because you gotta do it when it's fresh out of the dryer and it's all warm.
Anyway, but you're showed this perfect idea of a woman, this aesthetic, and you're like, oh, this is attractive, this is beautiful, I like smooth legs. But then you don't think about where that comes from. And so when you choose to shave and you spread this idea online that you're shaving from a choice and that's feminist, I think that's kind of harmful, actually, because you're telling other women that they should shave because of this and this reason.
And then you often end up, when you do that, you also don't clock your biases mentally, because it's not even men that think body hair is gross.
Mhm.
I've heard so many women like
The
comment
first
on body
woman
hair.
to shame me for not shaving was in 6th grade. And she was one of my friends, and it was just like, oh, ew, you don't shave? And I was like, well, why? It was like 6th grade, and she's like, because it's gross. I'm
I
like,
don't remember when I started shaving, but I knew I was definitely in high school.
Mm.
But that's insane. And so when you just say, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this because it's my choice," then you don't clock those things, and you honestly keep them alive, because you do end up judging other women. And once again, we're not saying nobody can shave. For example, I know a lot of competitive swimmers shave their legs
Yeah.
for that extra little bit of aquadynamics.
Aquadynamics.
I don't know, whatever. Like, and throughout this podcast, we're not saying you can never do something, but it's more evaluating why exactly you can do it. Like, for example, back to the plastic surgery, people who potentially had, I know people who had like, some had like, is it a cleft lip?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's people who are born with certain deformities that impair their lives a little, and at that point you can have plastic surgery.
Or like burn victims.
Burn victims too. Or if someone like, I know a lot of times, sometimes people have really bad falls and they have specific skin, they need specific skin grafts, but it is considered plastic surgery. Or someone breaks their nose like already, and then they get it reset, or like if they, once their nose breaks already and maybe it's set weird, because that happens when you break bones and your nose is like crooked, if you're not happy with it because that's not how you looked before,
that's genuinely not who you are, right?
Exactly. Like, I've looked the same since I was a kid. Ever that's everybody points it out. I've just looked slightly older. If something as drastic like that changed about my face, I would totally switch it back, because I would look at myself and feel so not like me.
Yeah. And that's why like plastic surgery was invented, right? There's nothing actually wrong with plastic surgery itself. But it's just, if you're going to get plastic surgery, that includes like, I guess, Botox, lip filler, any sort of like cosmetic operation that you're getting, evaluate why you need to get it. We were also talking about shapewear, right? Like,
oh yeah.
And how that ideal that you're fitting is an ideal of the patriarchy and capitalism. It's not an ideal that you want. You don't think that you're doing that for like liberation, right? Conforming isn't liberation, is what I like to say.
That's pretty fire.
And it's hard to like say such things and not sound anti-feminist. It's hard to not sound like you're blaming the woman, because we're essentially telling women to stop getting these things. But it's just that women say that they're getting these things for liberation, but really they're just conditioned to think that they want them through capitalism and the patriarchy. Because every time a woman gets plastic surgery, buys makeup, buys new clothing, that feeds the economy and feeds these big money makers who aren't going to stop unless we make them stop.
Exactly. And then we're also not saying what they should and shouldn't do, and what, because that's kind of contradicts what we're saying. Like, oh, the patriarchy tells women what they should and shouldn't do, but we should get to say what the women should and shouldn't do. It's not about telling people what to do or telling them what they're doing is wrong. It's just evaluating the reason behind their actions. And we know plastic surgery is not going away anytime soon, and makeup is not going away anytime soon. Shaving's actually going away, is becoming a lot less.
I've seen in the online spheres.
It's
become
more popular.
Yeah.
There's a trend going on TikTok right now. It's like called like full bush in a bikini.
Oh yeah.
Living for that movement. Because if any woman here is shaved, you know the worst part to shave is the bush. Anywhere else is, you know what, fine. But no.
The irritation is unreal.
Oh God, and then it grows back within like 14 seconds. Anyways, back to the point. And we're not saying shapewear is on the same level as plastic surgery either.
At all.
Like, shapewear is probably like, if we were going to evaluate, oh yeah, people getting plastic surgery, like if we were to say people stop getting plastic surgery, shapewear would be like a good place to start. Kind of like when people are really, really, really addicted to cigarettes, sometimes to get unaddicted to cigarettes, they start vaping.
I mean, that's why vapes were invented.
Exactly. So that's kind of how I view
But they were marketed towards kids, and then everyone
so was shapewear. I see girls at my school wearing a shapewear underneath their clothes, which I don't really care. I don't really care what people wear and stuff, but this actually sparked the conversation with me, and I was like, oh, what do you think of people just wearing shapewear casually? Because I understand people, like, sometimes people for events, or they bought, like, sometimes when you buy super designer dresses or super high-end dresses, they're sized a certain way or they're fitted a certain way, and you wear shapewear so you can look nice in those. Of course, that is still the problem.
Still sort of the same thing, and I don't think we're going to make women stop doing that, and everyone has their reasons for their choice, right? But a true choice feminism would be a genuine choice feminism, not a choice made because you were convinced by an oppressive system. And so that's why I think it's just better for women to at least acknowledge the reasons that they're doing things. Because realistically, if you have an insecurity, you're that big, you're probably going to get that plastic surgery anyway. But just be aware of why you're doing it and don't pretend that it's for X and X reason that's super feminist, because it's really the opposite.
Yeah. And, like, this is where me and Lola tend to disagree. And I'm a little, I mean, we had a conversation about this before, and I do feel I'm slightly defensive about it, mostly because I do agree that I probably am influenced by it, but I just feel so passionate about wearing pretty dresses sometimes. And my point about shapewear is, like, of course it'd be ideal if shapewear and plastic surgery wasn't a thing, but we don't live in an idealistic world, and we will never live in a world where everything is ideal. But maybe it's reducing using shapewear to those times where you do want to wear those fancy, well-fitted, expensive clothing, then you want to look extra good. It doesn't erase the issue of feeling like those standards is what makes you feel good, but wearing shapewear for an everywhere activity versus, like, a once a year, once every 5 years, or even just for your wedding type of thing
is a lot better.
That's what we're aiming towards more. Not getting rid of covering up body insecurities. Then that will never go away.
The insecurities will always exist until the system that spreads them gets dismantled. So that's what we're asking people to do, is not to put all the blame on themselves, but rather to question what's making them make these choices. And then perhaps through that, they'll get to a point where they feel the need to do it less because they've realized that it's like, oh, this system is making me hate myself. I don't just actually hate myself.
Yeah. And back to what Lola was saying about acknowledging what's going on, it's not always about saying, acknowledging, like, oh yeah, this system is making me do this, because even I say those things sometimes, like I talked about maybe wanting certain pursuits, like, oh yeah, I know I'm just affected by the system and stuff, but I so understand why some people wouldn't want to say that, and it's even then they also just don't believe it too, because you're saying you're losing all autonomy or control over your own personal well-being, and you're living for someone else. And so it's not about not always just about acknowledging, oh, I'm doing this because of this system. It's more thinking about it like, oh, I'm doing it for these reasons, or reevaluating the reasons for it. That's what we're going to keep saying. That's not about saying you need to give up yourself, or you shouldn't or shouldn't do it. It's about evaluating the reasons. And even then, if you just start thinking about the reasons why you want to do, like, oh yeah, I want to get a boob job because I wish my boobs were bigger, or like, oh, because I feel bad about my boobs, or because people tell me that my boobs are smaller, and like, or I feel bad about my boobs. Like, people say that all the time, but it's more revealing why you feel bad about your boobs. And oftentimes that will bring you to the conclusion after time that, oh yeah, it's because of this system that did do it. We're not saying that every single woman is controlled by the system and that they don't know how to think for themselves, because
it's just that all women are affected by the system, every single one.
Exactly.
There are no exceptions, right? So
yeah, and so you don't have to think, oh yeah, everything I do is because of the system, because it's not. You, as a woman, you can make decisions based on what's good for you. But it's saying that, oh, am I being affected by the system? Not am I a victim of the system, or is the system, like, in charge of my brain?
No.
It's that the system had this specific effect on you, leading you to do this action.
And back to what you said about, like, the lack of autonomy, I think that's how choice feminism thrives, is that it makes women feel in power about all the decisions that they make, because really lots of these decisions are I don't want to say force, but women make them because they're affected by the system, and that makes them feel helpless. And it's sad to know at the back of your mind that all of these things are just unavailable to you because you are an oppressed person. And so choice feminism is like a disguise for that. It makes women feel empowered, and it makes them feel more free than they truly are. And so that I understand that appeal, right? We get it.
Yeah.
It's just that it's not doing what it says that it is. And so
yeah, and feminism has always been about feeling liberated or not feeling controlled. And I understand the pushback, because exactly what we said is that these women, no matter what, will say that they're feeling out of control, or they're being affected by this, or their own decisions made for them are technically being made by a system. And we totally get why people push back against that, because that goes against what feminism has always been about, which is letting women do what women want to do. And that's the appeal of choice feminism, is that you can do whatever you want. You don't have to feel judged. And I do like that mentality. I like the mentality of choice feminism, where yes, a woman can do whatever, like a woman can do it, not about a woman, anybody can do whatever the hell they want, as long as it's not hurting other people. That's what I like to, or
well, I would argue this is hurting other people, though.
Yes, but it's, well, that's my point.
Yeah.
Saying, like, generally, everybody can do whatever they want unless it's hurting other people. But then, like Lola said, in this situation, this is hurting other people. Is the effect different than crashing your car into someone?
Yes.
It's so much, like, it's a lot slower, and it's like so much more gradual and so much bigger, but it's starts somewhere. Like when you're crashing a car, next time to not crash into someone, you may get crashed into at some point in your life, but maybe drive more carefully, slow down, check your signs, check your mirrors, do all this. But it's not that simple when it comes to these things. It really just does start with acknowledging maybe what's going on
realize it's class consciousness. Really, it's that you're not really making these decisions for yourself when you choose to conform. It's the money makers that profit from you making these decisions that are making them for you. So just realize what the advertisements targeted at women are doing. Like, why are you wearing makeup? Another thing is, I've heard the argument that it's self-expression a lot, right? Which I don't disagree with. I think makeup can absolutely be a form of self-expression. Makeup's always existed too, right? To enhance beauty and stuff. I just think that it stops being self-expression when you're not doing what you truly want to do, and you're doing it to conform to a standard that makes you feel better about yourself because it's what the world wants from you, but it's not what you want from you, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And like, we have no problem with makeup. We wear makeup. Although we have not done it yet, we desire heavily to do drag makeup together.
So fun.
Or even just recently, Lola and her sister had like a fun little bonding time doing makeup, and we have no problem with that. Makeup is fun. As we saw in previous episodes, I enjoyed doing makeup to make myself feel like certain other people.
But that is true self-expression, right? That's what drag and cosplay is, self-expression.
You didn't have to say the word alone. Trigger word. Anyways, and honestly, my biggest problem in makeup is actually contour or the face changing. Because I love pretty eyeshadow, even if it's not like, it doesn't even have to be colorful. If it's just like, nobody has brown and glittery eyelids. Nobody has that. And people don't have massive wing eyeliner naturally. And people don't have blue lips. I mean, unless they're like dead or something, or like freezing. But it's when you do the subtle makeup to change your features, then that's where we think it starts to get a little iffy, because what exactly are you changing your features for? Because it makes you feel prettier? To what standard? Who's telling you that?
Yeah.
Like, everybody's faces are pretty, and we might hear this argument. Sometimes, yes, makeup looks a little, like when you have heavy eye makeup, you can't really have a bare face with heavy eye makeup. It makes it look a little, it just looks unbalanced. But you can do your face makeup as well without changing your jawline, changing your cheeks, changing your nose, your forehead, your eyebrows, because especially nose and cheeks and like face shape, that's what makes you look like you. Like, I don't know if you've seen, I mean, I know those filter heavies, but I don't know if you've seen like those Udoyan like makeup transformations. The stuff they can do with makeup is truly genius. It's insane. But it also shows you that makeup very easily can really change the way you look.
That's not self-expression, right? That's
Sometimes,
the opposite.
I mean, it's a cool skill because you see these cosplayers and they look exactly like their characters, and I think it's so cool. I aspired to be that, but I was 12, and it was me and my James Charles palette against the world. But yeah, like, heavy face-changing makeup is not a problem when you're doing it like as a costume, but as your everyday thing, and that's how you aspire to be like, you have to question, why do you want to look like that? Because it makes you feel good. Why does it make you feel good?
To me, that's like the most overt example, I guess. What I beef with makeup is the advertisement of it. I don't think we realize like how much say advertisements have in the way that we live our lives and the things that we think. So when we make a choice, oh, I'm wearing this makeup for me, it's really because it was advertised to you by capitalism, right? Capitalism is making the choice for you, not you. It's Sephora who wants to make money, not you who wants to quote unquote self-express, you know? I also think that like choice feminism expands beyond just like the way that you look. I think we're going to have an episode on this later, but we can also talk about like stay-at-home moms or I don't know, wanting a wedding. That's a discussed example. Choosing to stay at home is a choice, and it's absolutely a choice that women can make, but it's often, for one, economically not possible. Wise or no, but I mean like a woman staying at home, she might be the one to stay at home because she quote unquote wants to, but also maybe her husband makes more money than her, because that's often the case. So, or women wanting certain events, women wanting certain things to happen to them. They want to have kids, they want to get married, all of these things that of course women are going to want without the patriarchal system, but maybe they would want them less, or maybe they would want them at different points in their life if it weren't for capitalism and misogyny telling them that they need these things to feel validated in themselves.
Yeah. But then, once again, like, of course, it's not that teenagers can't have opinions on things, but we are aware that we, in our points in our lives, we're not expected to go through anything, nor do people want us to. And maybe things change when you get that adult wisdom. But these are just our perspectives.
Our observations.
As kids of parents, which I think gives us pretty good credentials. And then when it comes to the stay-at-home stuff, it is better to be home with your child as much as possible when they're young. And sometimes it's about the man making more. And then maybe that is just because the man's job made more. But then, is it because he's a man? Did he have better aspirations in life because he's a man? Or
yeah, you might be perfectly willing to stay at home. I think if I had kids, I'd probably want to stay at home with them. But would your husband be just as willing? Because he should be, really. Like, I guess it depends on the person. But if you take a larger sample size, then the men should, in an ideal world, want to stay at home just as much. Yeah. So, like, think about it. You know, are you doing this because you genuinely want to? I don't know.
And if you want to educate your boyfriends, you should have them watch, like, My Life as a House Husband. It's a really funny anime. And just tell them they can be an ex-mafia boss if they wanted to. It'd be cool.
Anyway, I think that wraps up this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. This has been Lola and Ava on the Wandering Pondering podcast. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Which is an undefined amount of time.
Bye.